Hey everybody, this is Bad at Keeping Secrets. I'm Carissa, and today I'm really excited to welcome Prentis Hemphill. You are a somatics teacher, practitioner, writer. You use healing to reshape the world to be a more fair, just place. You're working to end harm and violence. You're also the host of a podcast, Finding Our Way, which is amazing, and I'll definitely put a link in the Substack to check it out. I highly, highly recommend it, obviously. And you are the founder and director of the Embodiment Institute and the Black Embodiment Initiative. And something you said in your bio that I thought was like crazy interesting that I wanted you to unpack. You describe yourself as a cartographer of emotions.
Yeah,
And this is going to be, I feel like this session might be a lot of like defining what these terms mean for us right now in
yeah,
this moment in this ever shifting landscape. And so maybe, is it okay if we start there?
yeah. I like that. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Uh, Cartographer of emotions, it's one of those things where I see other people's bios and I'm like, wow, people are really inventing and precisely describing what it is that they do. And I wanted to really talk about what I do, not just kind of fit into existing categories. Um, what it means for me is it's actually trying to give people a little bit of a window into how I perceive the world. And I really see relationships, I see uh, even our society and our structure, my own life, really through emotions. And it's almost like if I were to describe it to somebody, it's like watercolor. Oh, I'm talking to an artist, so it's fun. It's like I can see where some emotions begin and other emotions end, and I can see the relationship between different emotions relationally and how we kind of interact and inspire and foreclose certain emotional expressions from happening. I can see how society mandates who can feel what. Um, and I find that really fascinating. So part of what I'm trying to do in my work, I mean, it's a part of what I'm trying to do is just really map um, our emotional terrain and invite people into feeling things that they maybe have not, to disrupt the kind of order through our ability to feel ourselves and feel each other, and to allow feeling that hasn't been able to come through, that is necessary to come through ultimately. So that's what I mean.
I think that was beautiful. I think in continuation of that, in that question, I think I've been typically raised in the society to feel like emotions are something that I should control and set out to kind of uh, limit. And I was wondering if you could kind of expand. I know you kind of touched upon this a moment ago, how you look at the role of emotion in this moment.
Yeah, I really relate to that. I mean, I think all of us, especially in this country and in different ways, um, especially cultural difference, has something to do with it. But I think to some degree, we're all told that the way to be with emotion is through control and not through curiosity, not through allowance, not through learning and understanding. We're trying to control and then present something that is more acceptable to the world. Um, I think that does us a disservice in a lot of ways. I think in some ways it keeps us from really knowing ourselves. It keeps us from being known and felt, which keeps us from a certain kind of intimacy and connection. And I think if we look on a societal level, um, it is a kind of societally enforced denial, I think, of really feeling the things that we have experienced collectively, maybe in different ways, but things that we have experienced and gone through. When we are always trying to control what's trying to come forward, we can never actually learn from the past and what we've been through. So um, it makes a lot of sense to keep order, to have us control our emotions. But to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense if we're trying to grow and develop, if we're trying to move forward, we're trying to be creative, we're trying to connect with ourselves and other people. So um, yeah, I think it's a skill set that we kind of have to reclaim in this moment,
I
especially.
think I think also I agree with you. I think as someone who it has been, I identify with sadness. And I'm very much drawn towards it. But it and anger and the sort of suppression of those things has been sort of my life's work in a lot of ways, which the undoing process is really interesting. But you just mentioned the term growth. And I feel like for the past like 10 years, this has been a word that I've been really focused on, in the sense that like it's been kind of thrown around a lot as sort of the goal. Like there's not an end goal, but there's this growth mindset. There's this way of being almost as a guidepost, using the term growth.
Sure.
And I think we're in this moment of like sort of rethinking what that means. And I was wondering if you could kind of talk a little bit about, when you use the term growth, kind of what that means to you.
I love that question. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's the word can get used as growth, like the profit margin, or growth like a plant and its cycle. And I think those are both things we could apply the word growth to, but they're different processes. And they, if you think about the kind of profit margin growth, the never ending, always more growth, and that logic that lives underneath a lot of our society, that's why you get the need for denial. That's why you get the need for control, because that kind of growth can't actually stop, rest, reflect. It's almost like that growth doesn't allow maturation. That growth is only about accumulation. And so the kind of growth that I'm actually talking about is more the sense of maturation, more the sense of cycles, more the sense of even development is a tricky word because of how it's been co-opted, but the life inside of each of us that is perpetually changing and transforming, allowing that to change and transform, allowing everything that is occurring to teach us. And we will change the same way a tree changes, or a bulb will burst from the seed, and it will do its thing and it will die. I think if we understand growth in a cycle that is not afraid of death, then it's a different kind of growth.
Okay, so this was not something I was going to ask you.
Okay.
But since you mentioned, I mean, death and our inability, I guess my inability to deal with the end of things, you mentioned death, and I want to ask you about it, because in some way you just sort of, there was a reflection on it, or a comfort in it, that I think maybe to hear you speak a little bit about it might be self or might selfishly soothe me at this moment. So I guess my question is, through thinking about growth, is there a way you think about death that is comforting within the sort of plant cycle, or the cyclical nature of the term growth?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in order for me to, let me first say this. So much of our troubles are based in a kind of death anxiety and a fear of endings and completion. So much. And that's what I mean about the maturity. I think there's an immaturity in our society because we are really afraid and refuse to, or don't know how to kind of face that fear. I think for me, the question of maybe how to be right with death, I don't necessarily pursue the question to find comfort, though I have found some comfort in it. I had to kind of pursue the question, relinquishing my need for comfort, because even then I'm still avoiding what might be inside of death. But I think all I can really say is that there's something obvious to me about the cycle of living beings and the way that we come from many and become this individuated being who's still related, who's still in a web of relationship. It has a different form, and then we die, and then we are disseminated back into the whole. I mean, that I see, and I do find some comfort in that. I also find, I think, I don't know if it's comfort, but I find some kind of relief in the mystery too of it all. It's deeply mysterious, and I have to kind of surrender with an awe, a really reverent awe to this massive mystery that I'm a part of, and I'm just on the ride. And many have come and gone before me, so I think that actually inspires, that kind of awe, and it draws me towards an intimacy and an enjoyment and a love in my life, that I'm really grateful for, and I get to really experience.
I think that, I mean, that was really beautifully put. The relinquishing of need for comfort was something that you said that is absolutely something that I think I value comfort in a way that I don't know if it's necessarily the like supreme thing to value. Not that there's like necessarily a hierarchy of values that's universal, but I think having this feeling of relief is also something I think I really enjoy. And the fact that you find you are able to locate relief in the uncertainty and the unknowable parts of existence is, I think, kind of rare. Maybe it's rare in sort of Western society or Judeo-Christian society. I'm not like an expert on world space. But I definitely think it's something I personally struggle with, the wanting to have answers, or how it seems like a difficult thing to remain purposeful within the context of ultimate meaninglessness.
Well, I didn't say meaninglessness. I think
you didn't, but I did.
Right. I think I don't. I think that's a different thing to me. I don't know that death necessarily tells me that there's a meaninglessness. I think I just can't. How do I say this? The fact that meaning, and we're getting very philosophical, but the fact that meaning exists, that we make meaning, tells me that meaning exists. You know what I mean? On some other plane or some other dimension, meaning is something. And whether or not how we rank it or where it is in the hierarchy, like you were saying. But that's something really special to me. I know that meaning exists because I make meaning and I can fold meaning into words, and your art creates meaning. Meaning exists and we communicate through it, and it inspires us. So something about that is just like, oh yeah, okay, meaning exists. I don't know what it does. I don't know on what scale. I don't know, but I know that it exists. So, and yeah, I mean, I guess it also can make the meaning we experience, or the moments we experience, it can infuse them with a vibrancy to know that this is I think it's just an orientation I have chosen. And I think my partner taught me a lot about that. I was always so busy doing and trying to save the world and working really hard. And she would sometimes go, look at this flower that's blooming. And first I want to be like, why are you talking to me about this? I have like serious things on my mind. And yeah, and over time I just realized, oh, she's saying, drop into this moment with me. Arrive in this place with me. You are always going somewhere. Arrive in this place with me. Experience your life. We don't know if it will last forever in some dimension, in the furthest dimension. Maybe this will be, a forever experience, this moment, or not. Maybe just in our lives, we're able to have this moment of deep connection, and that's meaningful to me. So it's my wife actually taught me a lot about how to not escape the moment so much, because I was afraid I wouldn't get everything done.
It's also extremely hard, the constant over and over reminder to be present. And just to clarify, I definitely believe in meaning as like a human construct, and but I'm uncertain about I think that meaning could potentially exist outside of humans or human understanding or comprehension. And when I talk about it, I can't speak to that existing, if that makes sense. I didn't mean to imply that I'm rather obsessed with finding meaning, and sometimes it can be debilitating because it is not there. But I was wondering if you kind of, after maybe with the lead of did you say your wife or your partner?
Both.
What's your preferred term?
I also call her my husband.
Okay, your husband.
You could say my partner. She might prefer
that. I feel like there's a lot going on in terms of the study of awe and wonder in mental health circles, and I think you've mentioned a couple times since we've been talking this sort of cultivation of awe, and I was wondering if you, how you practice it, or how you kind of find it in your life, and not get bogged down with saving the world. Not that maybe bogged down is not the right way of saying that.
I want to answer you really honestly.
Just maybe it is by nature, choosing to marry the person that you did. There was this sort of magnetism that you knew that you needed or wanted within that other person. Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of it. Is very smart choice on my end. Yeah, because she does live in that place, or can, I always say, like, dwelling in that place, dwelling in that world, or dwelling in that way of being. I'm thinking about it for myself more as a kind of visceral experience of, or embodied experience of relaxation and ease. I think when I actually let the tension in my muscles go, when I arrive wherever I am, it doesn't take, there's no efforting towards awe, actually. I feel like the tension we hold in our body is very much a part of the system we live in. And yeah, I feel like I can step outside of it when I figure out how to let go of as much of that as possible. And also, I like to live in a lot of reverence. I like to live in a lot of reverence for what I don't know and what I cannot control. And that's that relief. It's also reverent. It's also, I think in our society, we are so controlling because we see ourselves as almost bigger than we are. And I find that doesn't leave much room for reverence. It doesn't leave much room for awe. You know?
I mean, there's this sort of paradoxical comfort in knowing how small
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
are among this great, massive, wondrous
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
It just is sort of a constant mind fuck for me.
Yeah.
But I think that this is sort of a natural segue into talking about the Embodiment Institute.
Mhm.
So embodiment is a term that I'm not super familiar with. I was wondering if you could kind of talk about what embodiment means again. Sorry to go back to like, I need you to define all of your terms today for someone who doesn't work in this space.
Yeah, so I will just start by saying that I think a lot of people are more familiar with the term somatics, maybe in this moment to
I'm
talk
not.
about. Oh, great. Well, for
Great, start
those
at
who
the
are, I'll
beginning.
just start with that. It is a term, a field of study and practice that basically posits that that our experiences it really began in a way with trauma. So I'm going to start there. Somatics in particular, that trauma is a physiological experience. It's a full body experience. And therefore, in a way, memories can be held in the body. The habits we kind of assume of self-protection and all of that can those behaviors can be indicative of unresolved past in our bodies, in our tissues, in our fascia. And so somatics has looked at neuroscience. It's also in some ways incorporated Eastern philosophy and some African dance over time, but it's become a pretty wide canon of research that has transformed psychology and all of this. And I studied somatics. But embodiment was this term that you'd find folded throughout. That was really referencing how it has a few different definitions, but I'll try to make it succinct as possible. But embodiment refers to, in some ways, what it is you've come to practice, what has become habituated inside of you, what it is you do over time through training, through exposure, through self-protection, even through your resilience and joy. What have you gotten so good at that you no longer have to effort in order to do it? It's one definition of embodiment. What is embodied in you? Embodiment also refers to a kind of developing awareness of your sensations, what's going on in your body, and it gives a kind of way to begin to practice aligning your values with what you actually do. Because some of us have embodied things that we may not believe in, but they come out of us habitually. And so embodiment is also like, how do I practice to become more of who I want to be more of the time?
Oh no, I mean it's a beautiful practice. Where do you begin?
Um, you begin by knowing that you have a body in a way. And that it's not only a thing to control or to make attractive or to use towards the for profit, that your body is much more than that, and coming to actually feel and allow that is a beginning step, but it's actually a massive step for a lot of people who maybe have learned to breathe and live and sense from the neck up only.
I think what is your sort of the understanding of the mind body relationship or interdependence? Because I definitely think that we're at this moment where we're shifting our understanding of ourselves to be more holistic, I guess maybe is the right word.
Yeah. It's a false split. And I think we're just coming to understand that it's a false split. I mean, there's a lot of historical reasons. A lot of people point to Descartes and Bacon and, all the early scientific revolution, philosophers, scientists, all those folks, they created in a way more language around the brain in particular being separate from the body, or the mind being separate from the body. But the more we come to, and I wanted to say that somatics and this kind of line of understanding itself is a product of colonization, because it is reconnecting things that were broken through the experience of colonization for all of us. And so it's mapping things back, and it's bringing kind of scientific lens to it. But these are things that were recently forgotten. They're not things that were always forgotten. So your brain exists in your body, as a part of your body. The mind is a process that is created through aspects of your body. The brain has a particular function. It does what it does, and it's very highly developed, and it has a lot of neural pathways in order to do that. There are also neural pathways in your heart and also in your gut, and those are always in a kind of communication and dance with each other. So the way that we split those things apart is really in a way to allow our body to be exploited, be controlled. But when we can actually feel our lives, we know more about where our limits are and our longings are too.
I think it's sort of foundational to try to shift my orientation away from control and being controlled in this more open. I don't know if it's inclusive is the right word, because I don't know if I can use that in reference to my bodies and internal workings. We are, sorry to pivot to be like, we're almost out of time. And I wanted to ask you before we went, I think I wanted to ask you your secret, because you have a secret, and and I wanted you to be able to share it. And yeah.
I don't know if I have any good secrets. I think, people think I'm serious all the time, and I guess that I am, but what is my secret? I'm really good at impressions of other people.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it though. No, but
you
that
can't
is my
say that, and then
yeah, I'm not going to do it because I like to have some consent around it, because I don't want to upset people. But I'm good at impressions.
I think that's a good one. I would not have anticipated that. I think I mean, impressions, I feel like, is something I'm absolutely not good at. And I don't even know if I could do an impression of myself, but and who that is, I don't really know. But yeah, thank you so much for taking this time out of, I know you have a lot going on. You have family life, you're working on a book, you have, yeah, just a full plate right now. And I was wondering if there's anything you wanted to kind of share, or something that's maybe, is as cliche as it sounds, bringing you hope at the moment, or that you're excited about in your life.
I mean, I guess my child more than anything. I don't know if it's quite hope, but it's like it's a real profound love, and it feels like it extends to other people. And yeah, she's just really delightful and smart, and has an incredible memory, and started saying my name, and that is wonderful.
What do you want them to call you?
Am I? She's gonna call me Poppy, like the flower.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought a lot about what I wanted my daughter to call us, and me, and I went with the classic mom.
Mom.
Yeah. I mean, the English, but I love Poppy. I think that's so beautiful. And I think being this I still don't really have words for the sort of expansion of heart and love and understanding of existence that came with her into my life. So yeah, no, I don't want to advocate. I know that parenthood is like absolutely not for everyone.
Oh yeah, it's so hard, but yeah,
It's
I'm
like
getting
a delusion almost, that I don't know, that it's not hard, that I want to keep, I mean, I want to keep doing it desperately, and the hard parts are so worth it in this weird, inexplicable way, if that makes sense.
yeah. And I think it's made especially hard by the isolation that a lot of parents experience and go through. That's what I really deeply wish would change is that, you know, I feel grateful we're in a community where I think people are like, oh, I want to spend time with her. I'm going to, you know, take her places. And that's, I think, missing from a lot of the way people raising kids or have to.
Yeah, I think at this moment, I'm the itch that I'm really longing to fill is community, but we still haven't, I mean, I don't know how it's like for you guys opening up. We're still like oddly anxious about getting sick. But anyway,
Yeah, makes sense.
I really, really appreciate all the work that you're doing. And let me know if there's anything in the future when your book comes out. I would love to share it. Thank you
Thank
again,
you so
Prentis,
much.
for doing
Okay.
everything you do.
Thank you.
Take good care.